Let's just start off with kind of the first big domino to fall, and that was Derek Carr. Signed with the Saints. He had a chance to sign with the Jets, but I don't think I think the Jets were all focused on Aaron Rodgers, and we'll mention him, and we'll also mention Lamar Jackson a little later down little down the road here. But Derek Carr going to the Saints, did that shock you a little bit?
Not really. You know what I'm saying? I knew the Saints was definitely in the running. The Saints, Carolina, that whole really that whole division was in the running for a quarterback. You know what I'm saying? But the Saints, man, if you was to rank the teams, you know what I'm saying? The Saints probably, Alvin Kamara, you got Michael Thomas there. Who knows what's going on with him as far as injuries, and I think they just restructured his contract actually. You know what I'm saying? And that nice defense over there. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Alvin Kamara, he has a legal case. He got something going on too. You know what I'm saying? So he could have joined them maybe at the wrong time, maybe. You know what I'm saying? But with all the stuff off the field things they got going on, but definitely a good move by Derek Carr, man. Especially getting out that AFC. You know what I'm saying? With the gauntlet of quarterbacks you have over there, like easy over there in the NFC. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean with Derek Carr, man, they definitely I would put them in the favorites right now in NFC South, definitely.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just look at the NFC South right now after Brady retired. I mean, it's pretty much wide open. I thought maybe the Panthers might go in on Lamar Jackson, but it looks like they're going to either draft CJ Stroud or Bryce Young. They could shock us and take Richardson, but it looks like they're going to have a new quarterback. The Buccaneers are going to probably have either Trask or Mayfield. And then you have the Falcons, which I think either they're going to go with Heineke or they're just going to draft a quarterback. So yeah, Derek Carr already is number one. And they'll probably win that division. I don't think they'll have a losing record, but there's a good chance that they could go in like 8-9 or 9-8 and win that division. But do you think the Saints have a chance to win a playoff game next year with Derek Carr?
Yeah, definitely. I like Derek Carr, man. I don't know what the knock is on Derek Carr, man. I like Derek Carr a lot. I think he's a good, strong, accurate quarterback. He's if you was to rank him in tiers, tier one would be, of course, the Joe Burrows and you know what I mean, those guys, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I think he's in that second tier of quarterbacks right there. So yeah, I definitely, you know what I'm saying. As long as they running into the Eagles or something first round. Even though the Eagles they might take a step back. You never know, man. But I think Derek Carr makes the Saints a very, very, very dangerous team out there. Like I say, especially, depending on, like I say, the status of Alvin Kamara, what Michael Thomas is going to look like. Of course, you still got Olave down there. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, they're very talented, man. And, that was the power move for the Saints, man. Definitely. The Saints, don't look out for the Saints, man. For real. Look out for the Saints, definitely.
Well, it seems like every year for the Saints, we think they're over cap or they're usually always over the cap, but it seems how every year they figure out a way to remove the cap or, just kind of delay it till the next year or the year after that. So the way they were able to structure Derek Carr's contract, I think was a great move. I don't think people are talking about it as much as just Derek Carr signing with the Saints, but I'm kind of with you. I think they're going to win that division. I don't know if they win a playoff game, but as long as you get into the playoffs, a lot can happen, especially since they have that home game and it's hard to play in New Orleans. So let's talk about another. Or is there anything else you want to mention there?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, bro. You good.
Well, speaking of Josh Jacobs, he's a good running back too. I mean, he led the league in rushing last year. Gets tagged. I understand running backs don't get paid. But I honestly think Jacobs deserves to get paid, especially after that season. And he's now had 1,000 yards 3 times in his 4-year career. So that's pretty good. But
what do you think about that, man? I mean, what do you to me personally, I think running backs need to be on a whole different pay scale as the rest of the league. You know what I'm saying? Because, it's just a shame. You really think about it. Not just Josh Jacobs couldn't get a long-term deal. He's one of the he was basically, like you say, the leading rusher. But think about it. All the teams, free agents, best running backs didn't get a deal. From Austin Eckler couldn't get a deal. Miles Sanders couldn't get a deal. Montgomery from the Bears, he couldn't get a deal. You know what I'm saying? And it's just a shame, man, the way these running backs are being played right now in the NFL. And I get it. It's a plentiful position. You got them coming through the pipeline every day in Little League football all the way up to, you know what I'm saying, NFL. But I definitely think these running backs, man, are getting the short end of the stick, man. So what you think about that?
I think it does stink for running backs. I mean, I understand both ways because if you think about it, running backs don't last as long. And when you do give them that contract, like, if you're talking about like big contracts like what Zeke got, it doesn't end up turning out great. But the way the Titans structured Derrick Henry's contract seems like a good option for any teams. And I mean, the Chargers I understand why Eckler wants to get out because he only has a few years left of his prime and a few years to get that big contract. But the way the Titans structured Derrick Henry's contract, I think a lot of teams could look into that. I understand it ends up being more at the end, but I mean, we've all seen teams always figure out ways to delay the cap and figure out ways to do, or basically figure out ways to pay the player in a few years rather. So I think they should have done something what the Titans did, but it does seem like Jacobs is not going to get the deal he wants and he's going to have to find it somewhere else. And it does kind of stink, especially the way he's played. And he's a very underrated running back. When we mention the elite running backs, we always talk about Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey, or at one time we mentioned Alvin Kamara, but we never really mentioned guys like Austin Eckler or Josh Jacobs. We also mentioned a little bit of Nick Chubb, but we never mentioned those.
Right.
And I feel like if you just figure out a way to structure it like Derrick Henry's deal, I think that would have been a better option. But at the same time, it's a running back, I understand. But again, at the same time, running backs, the way they play, they deserve to get at least something. Yeah. But I mean, we'll see. As we always figure out, the NFL continues to go, and it's just never ending. So maybe somehow he gets the contract, but I don't think. Now, another quarterback I wanted to mention, I kind of almost forgot about this, but Geno Smith is staying in Seattle. Not much of a surprise. Yeah. But do you think Seattle is going to draft a quarterback with their 2 first-round picks, or do you think they just stick with Geno Smith and get him more help on the offensive side?
Yeah, I think they definitely stick with Geno. Like I said, I don't think really people have confidence either in any other quarterbacks other than C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. I don't think people really I wouldn't put Anthony Richardson in high regard. I don't care damn it. I don't give a damn what his numbers looked at the combine. You know, you can be a workout warrior, and I go by the eye test, man. And what I've seen in Florida, he's don't have it. You know what I'm saying? Will Levis, I like him. I just don't think the pocket presence is there. You know, a couple of times I've seen him in the pocket where he wasn't. You know what I mean? He didn't. He just wanted. The pocket collapse, so he didn't have the pocket awareness. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really see him as I wouldn't spend a first round pick on him. You know what I mean? Maybe second or third round, maybe even basically C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young. Everybody else to me are third round, fourth round quarterbacks to me. And so with that being said, I wouldn't take. I would just definitely you know what I mean? I forgot who we talking about. My bad.
Geno Smith.
Geno Smith, yeah, definitely stick with Geno. Everybody, of course, is just a one-hit wonder. You know what I'm saying? It's just a contract year type of situation. You know, I'll be with them contract years, man. Everybody ball out and then get that money, and it's back to reality. You know what I'm saying? But I think Geno's been humbled, man. He sees this is probably his last opportunity. So yeah, I will stick with Geno for the next couple of years. And try next year, man. But I don't see, no quarterbacks. Like I say, that's worthy of a first or second round pick other than Bryce and CJ, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the same way. And you were mentioning the combine. Every year you see a workout warrior, and it seems like the combine is definitely overhyped because a lot of times we see someone get drafted way too high just because they had a good combine, and then they're just kind of mediocre, maybe not the same. I mean, we all know Tom Brady didn't have the best combine, and he ends up being one of the greatest of all time. It feels like the combine is overrated to a point where someone always goes first. I remember a few years ago, well, you would know this, the Bengals took John Ross back in 2017. Fastest combine ever, ended up not being the same. I think another receiver, this is random, but Kevin White from West Virginia was taken very early. If I can remember right, he had a really good combine, was not the guy. So every year you see someone, and then there's also guys that come out of nowhere that didn't really have a good combine, or they had a not good combine. They went from possibly being a first round pick to a 5th or 6th round pick, and they were a steal. So as we all know, the combine is overhyped, and we'll see what happens with Richardson. But Richardson seems like he's going to be a guy that will probably be taken in the first round, but he should probably get a year or two behind whoever's the starter. But I do think the Seahawks are going to keep Geno Smith, because if they didn't want Geno Smith, they wouldn't have signed him, or they probably wouldn't have drafted. They probably would have drafted a quarterback last year. So we'll see what happens with Smith, but he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, won the comeback player of the year last year. So I think he definitely deserves that one more year. Another quarterback too, the Giants. They brought back Daniel Jones, and I thought they possibly would sign Barclay and then tag Jones, but they did the complete opposite.
Yeah.
If you were the Giants, would you have done that, or what would you have done if you were the Giants GM?
Like you said, complete opposite. Definitely, I definitely would have long term Saquan and tagged Jones. My whole thing with Jones is how long is you going to keep trying to run him like this is college, man? You know what I'm saying? How long are you going to stay in that system where him and Josh Allen, man, with a lot of all these quarterback keeps and stuff, man. I mean, I like the way the kid played this year. I do. You know what I'm saying? I like the way the kid played this year. Not saying he didn't deserve a new contract. I'd have probably gave him a one. I'll definitely probably franchised him. Just Saquon, again, his injury, what I'm saying, history, but this guy carried y'all, man. This guy, he definitely deserved a deal, man. And like I say again, like we talked about earlier, it's just unfortunate. These running backs it's just very unfortunate, man, the way they do these running backs, man. Just show them no respect, show them no love, and I don't know, man. But the Giants are definitely on the come up. Brian Daboll did a hell of a job last year. I love that defensive front. You know what I'm saying? And they're on their way, man. You know what I mean? They're playing a hell of a division. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what Jones can do this year. I mean, what was it? The deal wasn't too much money. You know what I mean? It wasn't. He didn't break the bank. It wasn't a whole lot of guarantees like Lamar Johnson looked for. Lamar Jackson, I should say. But I'm still in the wait and see with Daniel Jones. I'm definitely in the wait and see with Saquon. I'm in the wait and see with him is. Are you going to be healthy for them? You know what I mean? Are you so there's a lot of wait and see on both of those guys, man. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I would have definitely did the opposite.
Yeah, Daniel Jones was good last year, but he wasn't like great. And I think Daniel Jones, I think he's a franchise quarterback, at least what we saw last year. But the contract he got, even though he didn't get as much guarantees, I still think that was a risky move because Daniel Jones, yes, he won a playoff game, but I think he threw for less than I think he threw for like 3,200 yards last year or something like that, and 15 touchdowns. So there's just still a lot to be desired. And I understand
so is that better. The system or is it him? Because they, like I say, they was running that college, that system. I don't know if it's a college system or I don't know if they didn't want to put the ball in his hands or they just the system or, they didn't want to put the ball in his hands as far as passing the ball or, I'm trying to, that's kind of the, I want to see him throw that thing, you know what I'm saying? I want to see him, throw that thing more, you know what I'm saying? So what you think is the system or you think it's him?
Well, I think first of all, I think what we saw with Daniel Jones last year is the Giants were not really a fan of giving him the ball as much. I think they would have rather relied more on Barclay, and that's kind of what happened. And he didn't have the best receivers last year. His best receiver, Kadarius Toney, ended up getting traded. Now they did acquire Darren Waller, which getting him for a 4th round pick or either a 3rd or 4th round pick was a steal. And I understand Waller has injury problems, but if he doesn't have those injury problems, we could see Daniel Jones throwing a lot more than 15 touchdown passes, but I felt like it was kind of the system because Daniel Jones really can't be trusted as much as like a Lamar Jackson or a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow. So, and that's again reason why I probably wouldn't have paid him and I just would have tagged him and I wanted to see another year. But of course, the Giants didn't pick up his player option, which was kind of on their fault because if they pick up that player option, they don't have to worry about getting him that big contract. But it's just kind of, they kind of screwed themselves, but at the same time, we hadn't seen much from Jones. So at that time, it kind of made sense, but we'll see what happens with Jones. We all know the Giants are going to be drafting a quarterback this year. And we'll see what happens there. Now, Waller, we've kind of already mentioned him a little bit, but he was dealt to the Giants. The Giants got a steal there, only having to give up a 3rd round pick, the 100th overall for Darren Waller, who I think is still a top 5 tight end. What do you think the Raiders were thinking of just giving up a 3rd round pick for Waller?
I don't know either. I don't know if it's, is it something that's on the injury wise that they know something that we don't know. You know what I mean? If he's not that same guy anymore, maybe I don't know, man. But yeah, so sometimes things like that maybe internal, man. He might have cut somebody out in the front office or something. Man. We never know, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because I'm still trying to figure out the Colts giving away what's the cornerback, man, Gilmore, man, for a 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
Like that got to be, to me, that probably need a steal of the free agency right there. I was hoping the Bengals signed him before he even went to the Colts, but that guy still has something left, man. And for him, the Cowboys give him for a 5th-round pick. I think that's even worse of a crime than Waller leaving for a 3rd-round pick. Me personally, because I think that move right there, man. You seen the plays he made for the Colts down the stretch, man. The picks he was making. That guy still is a baller, man. And I think that was the biggest, well, I gonna say robbery, but that was the biggest steal of all time. I can say of all time, but this year in the playoffs, I mean, this year in free agency, I believe, man, Dallas made a hell of a move to get that guy Stephon Gilmore from the Colts, man. 5th-round pick, compensatory pick, man, you can't beat that, man. Can't beat it.
Well, yeah, I mean, Stephon Gilmore still was really good last year for the Cowboys. Now, he did have some down years with the Patriots, but he won the Defensive Player of the Year just 3 years ago, and to only have to give up a 5th-round pick. And it's a compensatory pick as well.
Wow.
That's a huge steal. And yeah, like that might be a bigger steal than Waller. But as you mentioned with Darren Waller, someone he must have upset the organization. What I heard is Kelsey Plum, who's married to Darren Waller, was saying that I think she mentioned on Twitter that Josh McDaniels wasn't invited to their wedding. So he was offended. So he just traded Darren Waller.
But you just never know, man. You just never know.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with how certain Patriots assistants get really offended by certain things. And
man.
Sometimes you wonder what GMs are thinking and coaches are thinking at times, but
because these guys are human, man. They're human too, man. And and feelings and emotions run through everybody. You know what I'm saying? And some people, unfortunately, they're in a position of power to be. And some guys probably still, with the position of power, making moves based on how they feel about somebody. You know what I'm saying? So I can see that definitely. I can see it. I wouldn't rule it out.
Mm-hmm. And another guy too that I keep on forgetting because this was early in free agency, but Jalen Ramsey, still an elite corner, was dealt to the Dolphins for what? I'm trying to remember now. Was it a 3rd-round pick in Hunter Long, the tight end? Did that? I mean, that had to that had to catch you off guard. I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely did. I thought at least he could bring in a second, at least maybe not a first, but I definitely thought a 2nd round. So Dolphins again with a great move, bringing in Jalen Ramsey. I don't really know how he'll fit with the Dolphins. Still, to me, don't really put him past Buffalo, even though I think Buffalo is going to take a step back to me this year. You know what I mean? Just because all the pressure of them now. You know what I'm saying? Now they got pressure on. Now they got pressure on the coach, pressure on the quarterback. There's no more passes up there in Buffalo now. But that's a whole nother conversation. But to me, I don't think he's a good player. You know what I mean? I wouldn't put him in the top 3 or 4 teams now with him just because they made the move for him. But yeah, it was a hell of a move for the Dolphins, though. Hell of a move.
Yeah, I would definitely give him an A+ there, especially with the Rams. I understand the Rams are probably desperate because they're right now in cap hell. But I mean, that was a steal, and exactly. Don't have to give up a 3rd-round pick and a tight end that really doesn't play or didn't play much last year. So